Welcome back to Nerd Safari. I'm Simon.
I'm Ellie.
And if you enjoy this video, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell thing. That would be very kind of you indeed. And we are on Zoom today because I'm at work, you're at home, but we just had to do a reaction video because we're huge Star Wars fans, and they just dropped the new trailer for Star Wars: The Acolyte. And what do we know about The Acolyte so far before we watch the trailer? Not too much. It's set 100 years before Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. They dropped an image from it yesterday that was a lightsaber with a bloody trail behind it.
That looked incredible.
Yeah, it looked dark as hell. And apparently they're going to be telling the story of the rise of the Sith before we get to the Phantom Menace. So really intriguing. It almost sounds kind of like a detective story or something where there's a Jedi on the trail of this Sith emergence. So without further ado, we're going to dive in right now and check out the trailer for The Acolyte that just dropped about 10 minutes ago. If you want to see what we think about it, then stick around until the end. But for now,
let's go.
Let's do this.
Close your eyes.
Oh, they're so cute.
Your eyes can deceive you. We must not trust them. Tell me what comes into your mind.
Life. Balance.
Oh, I literally have
see fire.
goosebumps.
Wow.
Someone is killing Jedi. It doesn't make sense.
What happened?
I sensed darkness. This isn't about good or bad. This is about power and who is allowed to use it.
What is that?
Oh my goodness. The trailer for The Acolyte. Wow. My mind is kind of blown. What did you pick up from the trailer? What do you think of it?
So I've got a question for you, but first, my thoughts were obviously it's very Star Wars. It's very much in line with everything we've come to expect, especially from the newer Star Wars. We've got some fantastic characters in there. We've got some different species. It looks to be a mix of kind of CGI and also practical effects, which I think they do exceptionally well after having a few stumbles in the past, Lucasfilm. But it looks incredible. We've got this similar kind of like epic fight choreography, which kind of goes into a lot of like early Japanese cinema with that really theatrical fight choreography, which I'm really impressed with. My main question, because I don't know anything about the Acolyte series or what they're planning, my main question is I didn't see any familiar faces or any specific kind of character that would suggest specific characters in this that we're already familiar with. So could you explain to me kind of where is this set in terms of what's already been established in terms of timelines?
Yeah, so this is set 100 years, like I said, before Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So makes me wonder, I don't know whether we're going to see, Palpatine as a character. There's certainly scope for him. I don't know whether Ian McDiarmid would want to do that again, the guy who played the Emperor. I wonder if we might hear his voice at times or see him on a hologram or something. But really, outside of that, I think the fact that it is 100 years before the Phantom Menace, most of the human characters that we know probably won't be alive. So therefore, it is really the majority is going to be a whole new cast. And actually what I like as well is most of the cast are actors who you may have seen in smaller roles, but not necessarily A-list actors, which, I guess wasn't dissimilar to what we saw with some of the original Star Wars movies. Like a
I
lot of
think
the
that was
actors
a
were fairly
deliberate
new.
choice initially, wasn't it? Because you didn't want to
Exactly.
detract from the storyline by having these big names. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
that's
definitely a few
right.
I
So
recognize. Carrie-Anne
yeah,
Moss stands out.
exactly. I guess what I don't know is I'm not familiar with the High Republic era, which has been released in comics and novels. I haven't actually read any of those, so kind of failing my calling as a Star Wars nerd. So I don't know whether any of those lead into the Acolyte series, or if it is that they've just picked a period of history without much overlap. So they've got a blank canvas to paint a new story. But yeah, what I loved about it was I love seeing the Jedi Order. I remember watching the original three Star Wars movies and thinking, man, I can't believe it's over before we got a chance to see the Jedi truly being the Jedi. And I actually liked that about the prequel movies. I really enjoyed seeing the Jedi in the height of their power. What I like about this is it certainly has Jedi, but it also has the emergence of the Sith. And for what looks to be the first time, and just the power of this Sith looks overwhelming. So I'm really and plus it looks kind of uncompromising as well. It looks a little bit more adult than some of the other stuff that we've seen, maybe more in line with Andor than it was with, say, Ahsoka, for example. So I am super, super excited. I guess the other thing we know about this is we get it in June, which is what, like 2.5 months away at this point? Really not that long.
Not long at all. I guess the other thing that just occurred to me was it's about kind of the sounds like the beginnings of the Sith, so kind of when they first came to be. But what we know of the Force is it's not the Force itself doesn't change. It's kind of how people interact with the Force that change. So the Force itself is as it is. It's been implied in some movies that not necessarily like the terminology Sith, but that the idea of the Sith is kind of part of the Force of that. Like there needs to be some darkness. I mean, obviously that is more Jedi than there were Sith because only two there are. Um, so does this mean that this is the very beginning of someone recognizing that there is the potential for using some elements of the Force for darkness? Or is it that there has always been a dark element within the Force that's maybe kind of been manipulating people, that's always been there, and it's just kind of being like codified into the Sith?
I don't know. It's a really interesting question because obviously there's so much in the legends of Star Wars. All the novels and graphic novels that used to be canon, and then when Disney acquired Star Wars, decided those are legends and we're going to rewrite a lot of it. As you say, there was a lot in there about the rule of two and Darth Bane and master and apprentice relationships within the Sith. Back then as well, the Sith was also more of a race than a belief system or an order in the way that the Jedi were. Like the Sith were these kind of red-faced aliens with like tendrils hanging from their chins. But I don't know if that's been made canon. And I guess also the Sith were like a perversion of the Force. They were, whereas life and death were seen to balance each other out, the Sith were a group who monkeyed around with death, like tried to pervert the course of the Force and the natural course of life. And that's why we see Palpatine in Rise of Skywalker as this gross zombie clone type of a deal. But yeah, I think this is going to be super interesting. I think it will be a way for the new Lucasfilm under Disney's regime to explore a little bit more about the meaning of the Force and good and evil, and do the Sith and the Jedi balance each other out. And I also wonder, I wonder if this Sith character that we see in the trailer is a bait and switch, and whether it's going to be one of the Jedi who turns.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know. It can't be as simple as a group of Jedi hunting down, one Sith who's on the run. I think there's got to be more to it than that. So my prediction is we're going to see, maybe our first Dark Jedi, and that could be super interesting.
I think one of the things that I really enjoyed about the prequels was exploring how Anakin turned to the dark side, that it
Mm.
wasn't, oh, well, like, I mean, we have definitely seen evil characters in the established canon, characters who are just out for just kind of chaos bringing. But you exploring it through Anakin, it really helped you understand that often you do end up finding yourself on a dark path by trying to make good decisions. And I think that would tie in nicely with your suggestion that it could be a Jedi kind of leaning into that, is if they start off with, kind of Breaking Bad style, kind of making bad decisions for good reasons, but then you end up down a path that's very much different to what you intended.
Yeah, I think that'll be really interesting. Like, do the Sith come from a planet? Is it Peridia that we saw in Ahsoka? Are they people that were perverted by some external force or by their own greed? And who knows? It'll be super interesting to see how they tell this story. But either way, I'm excited. Well, hey, I need to get back to work. I got stuff to do here. So thank you for hanging out and checking out this trailer. Thank you, our viewers, for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, we will see you very, very soon, friends, on the next Nerd Safari.
Peace out, nerds.